Why are people on the left upset that Donald Trump pardoned the Chrisleys who went to trial, who were prosecuted? They were arrested, they were arraigned, they were charged, they were indicted, they had counsel, they went through the entire pretrial process, they went to trial. They went to trial, the 3-week trial in 2022, where they were found guilty by a jury of multiple felony counts, bank fraud, wire fraud. Why is the left upset about Donald Trump pardoning them, but not upset about the left or about Joe Biden issuing a pardon for Dr. Anthony Fauci, who had never been indicted, never been arrested, never been charged with a crime, never put on trial, never been found guilty by a jury of doing anything at all? I mean, I'm going to try to, answer this in good faith, but that's always challenging because these MAGA people, they think in memes. They think in memes or just the like one sentence soundbite things that have absolutely nothing to do with like reality. But I think it's worth addressing in a good faith manner, okay? Like I said, the Chrisleys, Todd and Julie Chrisley, reality star hosts, were convicted of bank fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy to defraud the United States. They were found guilty by a jury after a 3-week jury trial in 2022. Following the trial, Todd Chrisley was sentenced to 12 years in prison, and Julie was sentenced to 7 years in prison. And they were accused of defrauding community banks in the Atlanta area out of over $30 million. They used false bank statements and other documents to obtain these loans. The money was used to finance a lavish lifestyle, including luxury cars, designer clothes, and real estate. They also faced tax evasion charges while earning millions from their TV show. Their accountant, Peter Tarantino, was also found guilty and sentenced to prison. I didn't see anything about a pardon for the accountant, Peter Tarantino. Didn't see anything about a pardon for him. However, they were also ordered to pay $17.8 million in restitution to the financial institutions that they defrauded, but that went away when they were pardoned. They no longer owe that money. So now Donald Trump has perpetuated the Chrisleys' fraud against Atlanta area banks to the tune of almost $18 million in restitution that the Chrisleys were ordered to pay. They don't have to pay that anymore. Let's talk about Joe Biden's preemptive pardon of Dr. Anthony Fauci. During the first year of COVID, 2020, while Donald Trump was still president, and while Dr. Anthony Fauci was in his 40 or 45th year of government service at the federal healthcare level, he was in charge of the CDC or the NIH or something like that. He was in many ways the Trump administration's medical face of COVID. And as I've said so many times before, COVID broke people's brains, especially on the right. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants Anthony Fauci put on trial and executed. Rand Paul still has a complete hard-on for Anthony Fauci, saying that he lied to Congress about gain of function. If you want to go down a fun little rabbit hole, Google Rand Paul gain of function. It's a research thing. But, I mean, I've seen fucking t-shirts for sale on the right that Anthony Fauci should be arrested, charged, convicted, and hanged. He's a public health official. And what else do we know? We know from Bob Woodward's book, that came out shortly after the end of the Trump first term, and we know from audio recordings that Bob Woodward made of phone calls with Donald Trump that Donald Trump knew he was being recorded, that Trump lied to the American people early on about COVID. He knew it was airborne. He knew it was transmissible respiratorily, not just on surfaces. He knew that it could be transmitted through coughing, sneezing, things involving the airway. He knew that. He lied to the American people and told them it wasn't. He lied. He fucking lied. The President of the United States fucking lied to the American people, but they want to prosecute Anthony Fauci. I mean, and so many Republicans and podcast hosts and even Donald Trump had denigrated Anthony Fauci, even though Fauci worked for Donald Trump during the first year of the pandemic. Everybody on the right forgets that. Trump didn't work for Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci worked for Trump. And Trump never fired him. He didn't really say anything negative about him in public until after he got out of office. He followed Fauci's recommendations on Operation Warp Speed and got a vaccine out there. A vaccine that Trump supporters refused to take when they had that option. They refused to get vaccinated until they found themselves in a fucking ER about to go on a ventilator, and then they were begging for the vaccine, but by then it was too late. The right and MAGA and the QAnon people had made it so clear that Anthony Fauci, who to this day, there is zero evidence that he has ever committed a crime. The right and MAGA had made it plainly clear that in a second Trump administration, they would demand that Anthony Fauci be arrested, indicted, charged, put on trial, found guilty, convicted, and publicly executed based on literally nothing. And so Joe Biden issued him a preemptive pardon. Biden stated that these preemptive pardons were necessary to shield individuals from potentially unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions. There is no evidence that the prosecutions of the Chrisleys were politically motivated. They were found guilty by a jury. They were convicted by a jury. They were sent to prison by a judge. And Trump just nullified everything that jury did. All the time they spent in that trial, he just nullified all of the work that those prosecutors did in that case, and he nullified the Chrisleys' obligation to pay restitution to the banks that they defrauded. And MAGA thinks these two are the same things because that's how fucking stupid they are.